To do a back stitch, you're going to use either thread or embroidery floss. If you're using a back stitch just to attach pieces on a 6th grade project, you can use regular thread for that and thread it with the double thread technique that I've shown you in class. But if you're using a back stitch for some design features and things that you want to stand out on your picture, such as whiskers on a cat, stitches on a baseball, that sort of thing, you're going to use embroidery floss. So I'll just demonstrate with that here. I already have my needle threaded. Remember, with embroidery floss, we thread the needle, we leave a tail, and we tie a knot at the long end. To do a back stitch, we're going to start from the back and come up through the back of our fabric. Again, so that our knot is on the back and it doesn't show on the front of our project. You're going to start out with a straight stitch to begin with, just to get things started. Then when we bring the needle up again, like we're going to make another stitch, instead of going forward, we're going to go back into where that previous stitch ended. So the very end of the last stitch is where we're going to bring our needle. Back down through the same hole actually, so that the stitches are connected, they make a solid line. So then we come back up and back into the previous stitch. Our needle comes up and back into the previous stitch. You can change the direction of a back stitch and make it curve or turn corners or make different shapes with it just by changing the angle of where your stitch is. For example, I can, instead of coming up right next to this stitch, I'll come up a little bit diagonal and then back down through the last stitch. And that allows me to change the angle of my stitching. And by changing it little by little, I can make it look like it's curving around. I can turn corners. I can make letters. I can do all sorts of shapes by changing the angle of where my stitches are. So you can see here it looks like I've curved around. These are all individual back stitches, but they curve around because I've changed the angle. To tie off a back stitch, it's just like a straight stitch. You will flip it over on the back, but this you'll see it does not look the same on the back as it does on the front. The stitches connect on the front, but they actually overlap on the back. But the tie-off technique is still the same. You're going to slide your needle under your last stitch, so you have this loop. Cross your needle over the opening of the loop and bring it up through the center to tie off your knot. Then you cut your thread right above where the knot is, and you're good to go. And there's your back stitch.